Almost. Yep, all good. Mhm.
Okay. Call to order the Township Council Agenda Meeting, Open Public Meeting Statement. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meeting Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given in a notice which was transmitted to the Times of Trenton and the Trentonian on the 3rd of January, 2025, filed with the clerk of the Township of Ewing and posted in the Ewing Township Municipal Complex. The public, upon recognition of the presiding officer, will have an opportunity to address the council during the statements and comments from members of the public segment of the meeting. A sign-in sheet has been provided at the front of the room. When called upon, please come to the microphone and clearly state your name and address. You will be given 5 minutes of time. Statements and comments should be directed to the council president. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Baxter,
Present.
for the record, Mr. Schroth has an excused absence this evening. Ms. Stewart.
Here.
Ms. Wallert. Here. President Keys Maloney.
Here. We have a number of items for discussion. The first is an ordinance amending the revised general ordinances of the Township of Ewing in the County of Mercer to amend Chapter 161 dwellings unfit, requiring the registration and maintenance of certain real property for which an action to foreclose has been filed. A number of years ago, we actually implemented an ordinance to require the registration of vacant properties. In light of some changes relatively recently, we're refining that more specifically to ensure that foreclosed properties actually have to have a fee that is associated with being vacant. But for any vacant property, there is still a registration requirement. So some clarity around that. As you may recall, at our last meeting, I believe we also instituted a relationship with Hera Property Registry, and the representative from Hera, Mr. Kevin Sedella, is with us this evening and is able to answer any questions. But this particular ordinance in particular kind of carves out the vacancy registration requirement versus the foreclosure process that makes it clear that in the event that there is a foreclosed property, there is a process that needs to be followed, including the payment of a fee. It tracks to actually statutory change that was, I believe, enacted 2 years ago. I'm going to say 2 years, 2024. So last year. And so references kind of the state requirements and updates what we had originally had in place. Questions from members of council? Would you like to share anything about what Hera is doing for the township?
Absolutely. Kevin Sidella, Hera Property Registry, Melbourne, Florida. We manage vacant and foreclosure registry programs for 200 different municipalities around the nation. About 40 of them are located here in the state of New Jersey. Essentially, when the grass gets this tall and your code enforcement staff don't really know who to talk to, all they have is 1-800 bank numbers. We put you in touch with a responsible party, somebody that can be held accountable for the conditions of the property while it sits in foreclosure. It's free. We keep a portion of the fee that's collected. Never send you a bill. It's revenue enhancing. You're going to make a little bit of money on it, but most importantly, you'll get a resource that you can use to fight blight. So we're very proud to be here. We're proud that your township is interested in working with us, and we're excited about the venture.
And I know in recent years, there's been some movement between subsidiaries of the same bank. And so your connection to the different aspects of even sometimes the same bank or a different bank makes it more possible for us to get in touch with the people we need to if there's an issue at one of the properties.
Absolutely,
So we
yes,
appreciate that.
correct.
Any other questions from members of council?
That's okay.
Thank you. Hi. Yeah, I just wondered what was the impetus? I know in the past, we've had issues with abandoned properties or properties that had been foreclosed, and we weren't able to get in touch with the banks directly. It had gone through the series of this bank sold it to that bank and all of those issues. So I wondered, how many properties are we talking about in the township at this point? And, you know, what exactly? Because I believe our code office had gone out and checked these properties. So I just want a little background on that, if you don't mind. Perhaps you have it, or the administrator.
So my understanding is that there is, my recollection is 100 that were on the registry. some of them may not be, I don't have my mic on,
Yeah.
may not be foreclosed upon, but in fact may be vacant because they're going through remediation.
Right.
And so I don't have the number of foreclosed versus the larger list. So, we'll work with Hera to refine and make sure that the foreclosed property is kind of listed in their section. And if there's a vacancy because a property is being remediated or updated, it certainly has to still register, and that'll be a conversation. But my understanding is there's about 130, give or take, across the entire landscape of homes or
Okay.
properties.
So then your company would get the list from the town. And if there were fines, presumably at that point, there would be fines assessed. Your company would then, upon passage of this, if it goes through, the company would have the ability to represent the town
Correct.
in recovering these fines and moving forward with resolution ongoing.
Yep.
So that they can do that.
It's
I
meant
did
to-
see in your portfolio, the folder here, that you do represent a number of towns, a lot of them in Florida, it looked to me.
Yes, Florida is where we're based. But about a 40 here in New Jersey. We're also in Pennsylvania, New York, California,
Okay,
Illinois.
so you're pretty broad based.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
One of the challenges is also that there's an escalation year over year. The longer the
Right.
actual property stays in foreclosure, certainly the fee goes up, but you also want to encourage those property holders to hopefully move forward. And the hope is
Right.
that Hera will also help us with that process.
Well, good luck.
I see you also go out and inspect to make sure that the properties are either vacant or I would imagine foreclosed on and make sure that nobody's staying in there. Is that part of this inspection or is it? What
Well,
exactly do you mean by the inspecting of the property?
full disclosure, Councilman, we're running this from a call center in Florida. No one will be walking the streets looking
Oh.
in the windows to see what's occupied and what's not. That we're going to work with your code enforcement team on that, though.
Madam President, can I interrupt?
Sure.
Sure. So just to address Councilwoman Waller, I think you kind of asked what was the start of all of this. So this kind of came about, as you know, our office is routinely just looking at our ordinance, seeing what's going on. We kind of flagged this one, knew that there had been a change in law in 2024. There was some litigation that was making its way through the courts. There still is some litigation making its way through the courts, but ultimately the legislature, as it pertains particularly to vacant and or abandoned houses that have been foreclosed upon, has greenlit municipalities to have these vacant property registration lists. So the issue is that, to my understanding, is that code enforcement just is stretched too thin with all of their work. So they are still going around, they'll still be the ones who, you pass 123 Happy Lane, the grass is 12 inches and the windows are all shattered and it's obviously vacant and abandoned. So they will write the citations, but if the citations are just sitting at the house, there's nothing, because all that Ewing has is, as our guest speaker here said, a 1-800 number or a bank number.
Right.
Ewing has been in a lurch in the past, and honestly, these fines aren't enough for the bank, if you're just sending them a
Right.
random letter to do anything. So what Hera does is, at no cost to Ewing, they get the list from Ewing and then they work in conjunction with the township and they essentially take over the admin work. They keep like a running list of contacts. The contacts have to be actual individuals that Ewing can get in touch with or that Hera can get in touch with. And then it frees up code enforcement from having to hunt down an actual property property administrator or somebody that they can talk to say, hey, we need to get this property taken care of. Or Hera works with the township to say, we've given these people 5 chances and they won't do anything. Go ahead, we're going to have Public Works board up the house and gate it off, and then we'll put a lien on the property, for all of that work and maintain it. So really, they're coming in, there's I believe it's $250, the registration fee per each property, and Hera takes 50% of that at no cost to you. So, at no cost to you, and they'll take 50%. And then if property owners do not pay any of the fees on time and penalties have to be assessed, Hera again goes after and keeps track of it. So that would just frees up admin.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair. In addition to that, we know that these banks have been playing a little bit of a shell game with respect to these properties. So whenever they get to the point where there's violations, then another bank ends up
Right.
taking it over. And then it becomes sort of a witch hunt to chase this down. And Harrow would do a good job of making sure that they're bird dogging this. My understanding also is that there has to be a representative that's going to be the property manager, that's going to have to be the point person according to this. And so I think that's extremely important.
Right, I do know Madam Chair, in the past, it's kind of almost been a fool's errand to try to track down who the ultimate responsible entity is, whether it's a person or a bank or a mortgage company. And it just was, I remember, the difficulties that our code office did have in following through with that, because it was impossible to get hold of the proper person and then move forward with the fines. So sounds like it will hopefully be a help to the town and
It gives us the administrative muscle that we
Yeah.
may be needed in a way that, we're great at identifying if there's an issue on the street, but how do we get a hold of the right
Yeah,
person
yeah.
and make sure that resolution happens? And Hera hopefully
right.
helps us with that.
And that's been
process.
ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times these properties are treated by foreclosing entities and investors like kids treat baseball cards. Lots of them are traded back and forth overnight.
Right.
We kind of have developed a niche of figuring out who has what and when. We register about 10,000 properties a month nationwide. So your properties are going to be lumped in with them, and we'll see the success rate that we have on the foreclosures. We're pretty high, 90% success rate. But the vacants are a little bit different. They're lower. It comes and goes. It's dependent upon how much information you can provide us, because that's a whole different ballgame. It's two silos that we're talking about here. If that makes sense.
Well, I look forward to your success, because that will be our success
Absolutely.
as well in the town. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for having me.
All right, moving on to number 2, a resolution amending Resolution 25R-212, authorizing a license to the United States Environmental Protection Agency to access an additional township-owned site for purposes of soil sampling. I believe we actually moved the original resolution at our last meeting. We were not aware of an additional property that has since been added to the list. And I know EPA was very focused on ensuring that we have the complete list. If you notice, I believe the additional item is Moody Park. As you may recall, we,
Oh,
as a township,
yeah.
had different pottery issues, if you will, dumping sites throughout the township. And so EPA is actually tracking the impact of that on our soil, on township-owned property. Questions from members of council on this item? Members of the public on this item?
It's actually, where on Moody Park is it, or is it the whole thing?
I think they're going to investigate the entire area.
Thank
right? You don't know. What's interesting too is I just learned this when we had the plaque dedication for Pennington Road Firehouse, that, Pennington Road Firehouse initially was where Slocum's was, and that was in fact a pottery business.
Yeah.
And I had not known that. So interesting.
Right, number 3, a resolution authorizing a memorial donation program allowing the installation of memorial park benches and trees. Questions? Just to give some explanation on this one, it allows us to, in essence, set some standards in terms of costs for actually, if you will, donating a tree or a bench. So that we're actually addressing both the actual acquisition of the tree itself, but the gator bag in the case of a tree, as an example, stakes and attendant items that need to happen with the actual tree. Questions from members of council on this item?
No question, but just a comment that the Rec Advisory Board was 100% in favor of this. And they actually want to try to use this as a model moving forward with monies that may come into the rec trust, or any donations that may come in for rec, and how they can disperse.
And these will go through that new account that we set up last week.
Yes,
Or
so I
two
was
for it.
remiss in not saying that the monies that would be provided in this case would have to go into the trust, or fund itself, underneath kind of DCA roles as well as actually accounting roles. So it makes sense.
And then such can only be spent on this, right? They won't
Correct.
go to the general fund. They will not offset other things. They'll go to the maintenance and the acquisition. Thank you.
But it also puts the public on notice that if you want to do this, this is how much it costs and this is how you go about doing it. So I was remiss on the former two items. Would any member of the public have any questions on this particular item? Yes, sir. Come on, I'm just gonna need you to come to the phone, yep, to the mic and give your name and address, just, we have a recording and we have to take minutes from the.
And people are-
Okay, my name's Stephen Slaughter. These different memorials, you're asking for donations for fixing memorials that we have around?
No, so this would be if someone wanted to dedicate a bench or
Right.
a tree, as you can see outside of town hall, we have a number of benches. I
Right.
know I was involved with that years ago. We had a number of viewing lions that we dedicated the bench and the plaque. And so it would be a similar process and the township actually installs it. But this sets, kind of the cost as well as the process for actually, if you wanted to dedicate
I
a bench or
understand.
tree.
I understand. There's, I would suspect there's a memorial on Bear Tavern and Parkway at the light, that little, I see people
Oh,
setting
the
up
park, West.
plants, yeah.
Yeah.
What are they memorializing there
So that's,
or at any of them?
yeah, so that park actually is considered the crossroads of where the Continental Army actually came down on its way to the Battle of Trenton.
Oh, so we talking about a memorial for an event?
That's for an event, but we're talking about somebody dedicating a tree or a bench to
I understand memorialized areas and what you do, but I thought that there were different memorials and they all had different tones, like you just said, for the war efforts or something. And I thought some of the other ones may have had something to do with, education. Some of them might had something to do with, what's going on in the town, or just different memorials and people that, were monumental and, they may be memorialized and stuff like that, names on benches. And I was just wondering, I didn't come here to address.
And
But-
look, your question is one about whether we should map maybe all of those different,
Well, maybe
of
you'll
memorials.
get more effect. People will start seeing purpose as they ride by, because I see them doing the trees and the plant.
yep.
And I often wonder, I've been here for 30+ years, so I see what's going on in the city.
No, it's a great idea and we can certainly take it back to administration. I know in the past, we've actually mapped our park. and
Well, I'm just trying to get an idea now, whether it's something you want to do, it would help your efforts for donations.
True.
I'm serious. People will say, well, my dad just died. I send flowers or trees to people that I know that their mother passed away, and I'll send for a tree to be put up in her behalf with a plaque. So I'm saying, if we doing stuff like that,
My guess is there'll probably be some additional press that comes out of this, and that is a great idea as part of it. So thank you. I appreciate it.
So Madam Chair, may I?
Sure.
We are in fact talking about creating a park master plan, and that's certainly something we need to take under advisement. But just to echo what the council president said, that you understood clearly, this is not something that we're really soliciting from the town. This is for folks that want to memorialize, perhaps their parents enjoyed walking in the park and, they passed away. This was their favorite spot. They can get a bench or plant a tree. What this ensures the township is that we're consistent in the application of the process and making certain that there are trees that are both native and compatible with the landscape, and then benches that are also consistent with the style that we find acceptable here in the township. So that it doesn't become sort of tree and bench pollution. All right, so there is a master plan process. I certainly will take that under advisement when we engage our designers. Okay.
Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments from members of the public on this item? Okay. Moving on to number 4, a resolution authorizing the donation, recycling, or disposal of property of nominal value. Included within your packet is information, I believe. This is a number of items, again, from, I'm going to say, Station 30? I'm looking at it sideways, forgive me, including some scuba bottles and the like. Questions from members of council on this item? Questions from members of the public on this item? Moving on to number 5, a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3 2025 Ford Utility Interceptor police vehicles from Winter Ford NJ Contract 20 Fleet 01189. Included throughout the year are a number of these resolutions as we move through the actual acquisition of pieces of equipment that we authorized as part of the capital ordinance. This is 3 Ford utility vehicles for our police department. Questions, members of council on this item? Questions, members of the public on this item? Number 6, a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3 upfit packages for the 2025 Ford Utility Interceptor police vehicles purchased from Winter Ford NJ Contract NJ 20 Fleet 01189. This is the actual additional items that are put on board the vehicles for purpose of outfitting them for use by our police department. Questions from members of council on this item? I really should have handled those two together. I apologize. Questions from members of the public on this item? Number 7, a resolution authorizing the tax collector to convert property maintenance charges to a municipal lien of various properties within the township of Ewing in the county of Mercer, state of New Jersey. We had a larger list last week of this. In essence, after a period of time, a maintenance charge can be converted to a municipal lien for a particular property. Forget what the time frame is, but this is within the acceptable timeframes, and I believe it's only one property that is under consideration this evening. Questions from members of council on this item? This was for some brush, grass, and weed.
Raccoon and skunk.
And-
was one I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
That's a lot of skunks.
And it wasn't a small price tag, actually.
No. Raccoons and skunk, party in there.
Thanks to our folks for actually boarding up the property appropriately. Questions from members of the public on this item? Number 8, a resolution rejecting all bids received in response to the request for bids for the provision of secondary on-call condemned structure demolition services. In short, we had issued a bid for a secondary, if you will, backup condemnation demolition service provider. Unfortunately, we didn't have any responsive bids, and so the idea is to rebid this once again. Questions from members of council on this item? Questions from members of the public on this item?
Madam Chair, just with a slight correction, we did have some responses for this one. The first one we did, the second one, the primary we did, the second one, we
Yeah.
had 5 people with 5 fatal flaws.
Yes.
So I think we have 10 people that are looking at it, and I think the bid's open tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. We'll be opening tomorrow. Great. Number 9, a resolution requesting approval of items of revenue and appropriation. Couple items, including the Sprint firefighter grant, Sprint police grant, FY 2024 assistance to firefighters grant, and the CPS sustained enforcement grant. Get these throughout the year. Questions from members of council on these items? Members of public on these items? And number 10, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2025 Ford F-250 regular cab 4x4 truck in the amount of $67,213 for the purpose and use of the Public Works Department through Sioka Ford of Flemington through state contract T2100 24 Fleet 103122. Again, as the police vehicles, if you will, purchasing for purposes of our Public Works Department in this case, we have already authorized the actual process by way of our capital ordinance. Questions from members of council on this item? Questions from members of the public on this item? Madam Clerk, seeing nothing of an issue, if we can move all those items over to the regular session, that'd be great.
So noted.
All right, moving on to the bills list. Any questions from members of the council on the bills list? Questions from members of the public on the bills list? Have a number of items for the consent agenda. Um, As you know, we'll handle these in block, assuming there's no issues. Any questions from members of council on the consent agenda? Selfishly, I'm really happy about number 1 since that's my neighbor. Questions from members of the public on the consent agenda? We have 2 items for second reading, public hearing, and final adoption for members of the public wishing to speak as part of the official record for purposes of adoption of these ordinances or non-adoption of these ordinance. We would urge you to stay for the regular session, but you also have the opportunity to raise any questions or concerns as part of the agenda session. But if you want to be part of the official record, you need to stay for the regular session. The first item is an ordinance amending the revised general ordinances of the Township of Ewing in the County of Mercer to amend Chapter 319 Solid Waste, Section 14 Violations and Penalties to amend the penalties for violating Section 319 regarding the removal of trash bins from the public streets. Had a robust conversation as we moved this through the process several weeks ago. In essence, this sets standards for when you need to remove your actual trash cans from the streets, just like we have a standard for when you can put your trash cans out at the curb. Questions, members of council on this item? Public on this item. Also sets up the penalty schema for violation. Okay, and number 2, an ordinance amending the revised general ordinances of the Township of Ewing and the County of Mercer to amend Chapter 224 littering, Section 1 prohibiting acts to prohibit the release of balloons in the township. Very candidly, not in your home, but outside in light of concerns with, amongst other things, birds. This actually forestalls mass balloon releases to ensure safety for our wildlife. And actually came to us by way of our business administrator, who actually noted that this can be terribly dangerous. And so, in essence, tries to strike the right balance of ensuring that if you want to have balloons in your house, great. Outside, not so much. This does not apply to, obviously, weather balloons or scientific circumstances. Questions from members of council on this item? Questions from members of the public on this item? Okay, great. Moving on to council comments. Does anyone have any reports from their boards or commissions? I have.
Yeah. Rec Advisory Board, well, we had our meeting last night. As we all know, we spoke last month, our former member of the Rec Advisory Board in Weston Soccer, Mr. Bruce Angerbrandt, passed along. And Ewing United Soccer would like to see if they could have memorialize him in some type of way, whether they name the field after him, the complex, or putting a bench out there, because I understand him and his partner had a corner they sat in every time, every week, watching practices and games. So they would just like to pass forward through Ewing United, through the rec board, like to pass along the idea of trying to figure something they can do to memorialize Mr. Angerbrandt, who gave at least 25 plus years of time to Weston Soccer and then Ewing United Soccer.
We did that for Karen.
We did Ms. Bauer. We have Karen Bauer's field out at Moody Park. It was great. If you haven't seen the plaque in this,
Nice job.
Nice job. Secondly, they reinforced that they would like to see the comprehensive plan for our parks and want to know anything that they can input to help bring it along, or any suggestions that they have or that they may receive over this community as Community Fest comes. They plan on having a box, like a little sign-up box, where people can put suggestions in on what they may want to see with the parks or some type of upgrades or equipment. So they're going to have a box out at Community Fest this Saturday. Also, the trees that were planted in lieu of Scudder Falls Bridge. I know many went over to Armstrong Park, but we understand a lot of them have died. A lot of those trees have died, and they want to know would they get replaced? What's the process in trying to get them replaced or getting more trees put up? Because I think there was a commitment of over 500 trees
So there was definitely a commitment of over 500 trees. There also was a requirement that they actually maintain them for a period of time, but I would have to go back and actually check to see what that was.
Yeah.
So that's something we can look into.
Definitely look. And for the most part, about it, like I said, they were in full support of the benches, the bench dedications, and moving on. And and
Yeah.
it was still a fresh thing, going to the meetings and not seeing Bruce there because he attended every meeting.
Other member of council. My Arts Commission also met relatively briefly the other night. Moving forward on a couple things, they're going to be working with the fire department and the Patriotic Committee to actually paint 2 boxes, one for flags and one for Santa letters. So awesome. Working through the details on the best types of paint for having them outdoors. So that was part of the discussion. Obviously, we have 2 art installations going on right now. If you have a chance, kind of wander the halls. I do not officially have the dates for the next art show, featured artist art show, but I know it's always on our website. And I know Julie does a great job at actually broadcasting it as part of the weekly missive that goes out. And last, but certainly not least, I would just be remiss if I didn't actually make a plug for Community Fest this coming Saturday at the College of New Jersey from 10 to 4. With a bike ride starting a whole lot earlier than that. But seriously, we do fall pretty darn well in Ewing, and I'm super proud of that. And it's a day that brings the entire community together. You can hear everything from our high school band to drummers to, I know we have singers,
Dancers.
acapella, senior dancers, acapella groups, and I'm gonna say it's not judo, it's taekwondo.
Fire trucks.
Yep,
Bouncy house.
yep, bouncy houses, fire trucks, and even a video game arcade.
Trentones.
And the Trentones, yeah. So please stop by. The week after, however, I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that we also do trunk or treat, also at the College of New Jersey. A great day that brings together thousands of kids and lots and lots and lots of candy. Please take a note of our website. That also goes out as part of the missive. It's a day where you'll see so many kids in the community. And I will just say those young at heart also who participate. And the amount of imagination that goes into the trunks is pretty incredible. So, like I said, I think we do fall pretty well here in Ewing. With that, do we have any statements or comments from members of the public?
Yeah.
All right. Ron Perkanowski?
Good evening.
Ron Praknowski, 16 Thurston. I'm going to do this all at once rather than be a jack in a box every time you ask for comments from the public. The 2 ordinances you have today, I question the enforceability of these. First of all, with the balloons, and I understand what you're saying, this is basically because of the mass number of balloons. But consider this, and I've seen it many times. A child tragically loses their life. All of their friends get together at their own type of memorial service. And at the end of the service, they launch all these balloons. Are we going to arrest them? Was that ever considered? Okay. With respect to the trash can, does that mean recycling too? Oh,
So this
Okay.
applies to simply trash cans.
okay. The only problem I have is I wouldn't want to be the person serving notice to the violator. Okay, both of these ordinances have unintended consequences. And I really wish you would consider that $250 fine for a trash can. Knock it down to $50. People will probably pay it and go away. $250, you're going to stir up a pot.
So Ron,
And
as
that does
we're
not give this town a very good look.
as we've talked about, the person will have been given several warnings where the same occurrence will have happened over multiple weeks before we get to the actual, fine. So in essence, this would be what I would constitute a repeat offender. And so the fine doesn't happen until it's happened a number of times. We also try to properly reflect with work from this group to get to a better point in time where you need to have the can in. And so I think we're in a decent space. We're always subject to review if we're having problems or people are experiencing issues. But I think it strikes the right balance, both in terms of ensuring that people are given some deference to try to get it right. And at the same time, also, if there's continued offense, it's addressed eventually through violation.
This is an educational process, okay? Not everybody attends the meetings. Not everybody attends by way of Zoom. And everybody gets their information second and third hand on Facebook. So this has to go out so that people understand. And if it's one individual, that one individual has to be addressed. But I understand this is quality of life. I have no problem with that. It's kind of annoying at the end of a trash day, going down 31 and seeing all the trash cans all over the place. So I appreciate that. But again, there's unintended consequences with an ordinance like this. But that's not why I came here.
Okay.
I came here basically because the conversation we had the other night, I think it's about time we took a hard look at our master plan. From what I can gather, the last time it was looked at was 2014. And by the Municipal Land Use Act, it should be done every 10 years. So we're well past that point. Okay. COVID has changed a lot. Okay. We have Zoom meetings, which we never had before, but now we have them. Okay. E-commerce. You don't have to do anything today that you can't do except maybe get your car repaired or get your appendix taken out. Everything is done online, just about everything, about 99%. Okay. Then we have warehouses. Everybody complains of warehouses. Fortunately, ours are already built or to be built. I mean, the one on Ludlow Drive, we could have some on Upper Ferry Road. There's some. They're already in process. But with the warehouses brings delivery vehicles. And one of the residents at a previous meeting talked about delivery vehicles. Now, I know that's not something council can address. It has to be done through the police department. But nevertheless, that is a new problem that's coming up because I've seen Amazon has people in cars, not always the big electric vehicles. And I've seen them on my street. They pull up in the middle of the street, let the car running, open the door and run in. Now, people going in either direction have a problem. So this is something that goes into that quality of life type situation. Okay. So the other thing you have to look at with the master plan is you've got 2 streets that are going to be addressed by the county. Calhoun Street Extension into North Olden Avenue and Parkway, which has been talked about from Scotch Road to Pennington, putting in a road diet or whatever they want to call it. They're going to change that because of the amount of accidents that have happened over the years. So that should be incorporated into a master plan. The other thing we have to do is after 40 plus years is take a look at Olden Avenue and its development. We've gone through a number of plans. We've talked about it and nothing's happened. The original plan was to minimize the number of automobile dealers, and that hasn't happened. Now, God bless them. They sell cars, that's up to them. But also you got to look at the vacancies. You got the carriage cleaners that has been empty for over 20 some years because it's contaminated. It goes along with our presentation tonight as to who owns it and who's going to clean it up. You have Boston Market that's been vacant. Then you have the former Carvel, whatever the name is, for the last 14 years that's been vacant. And to that brings me to the point of all this rental space that we're making, retail and apartments. And you have to understand that the revenue to this town is tied to those rentals. They don't rent, you don't get paid. And that's not just for Parkway or the Gateway Center or Ewing Town Center. That's all of your apartments. If you go down Parkway Avenue now, you can see the effect of vacancy because they've got signs, we have vacancies. So what happens is the rentals go down. They say, well, they're not affordable. Get an oversupply like we're going to be having pretty soon. And the rentals go down, your income goes down. But this is why I say we need to take a good hard look with all these factors into a new master plan.
So I know that there has begun, the process of reviewing the master plan has begun. This past year, I saw the initial kind of overarching elements displayed as part of the planning board conversation, and I know that will continue for a period of time. We did do at least one update to the master plan, and I believe I'm going to say it was either 2018 or 19 for purposes of the historical properties that needed to be updated. So we've done, and the environmental overlay was also updated, I think, prior to that. So there's
We're-
been some
We're
intercessors.
talking
but
about parks and
Yeah.
trees that should all be incorporated
Absolutely.
into the overall master plan and bring Holden Avenue into that overall master plan. You said it was 18 or 19. COVID was 2020.
Yeah, no,
So
it was
The
definitely
world, the
COVID.
world around us has changed. It's time for us to be part of that
And our
change.
reviews have been generally tied to individual elements that we needed to update at the time. But you're right, every decade you are and go through the review process that I believe has actually started on the part of our planner and will continue, I believe, over the next several years, actually. So you are not wrong in terms of the master plan review, and I believe it is underway. And I will certainly get back to you with affirmation one way or non-affirmation after I have a chance to talk with the planner.
Madam President, it's an educational property. It process.
Yeah.
Please bring the public in
Of
for their income or for their input, because some people have no idea what goes on in the town. Not everybody is able or capable of coming to these meetings. And social media is not an ideal place to put the master plan. Let the people come in, have a little charrette, in other words, a brainstorming session. Let them come and have their feelings made, make it convenient for them. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
And this was just the original kind of elements that needed to be covered and a little bit of an overview on the process. So we're at the very beginning, but I promise I will get back to you with specifics as to where we are in the process and where we will be going.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime.
Madam President, may I make a correction?
Sure.
Or clarification. I didn't want to interrupt Mr. Perkinowski because I want to make sure he said what he needed to. I just did want to clarify one of the first things that he had mentioned in regards to the ordinance for the trash can removal. So the $250 first time offense, that's specifically for other sections of Chapter 319. So that's for that's specifically not for trash cans. So that's for somebody improperly disposing of a tire, which we know is regulated by the state, or somebody bringing out a mattress and leaving their mattress on the street for bulk pickup, 4 or 5 days before. The $250 is not for trash cans. The trash cans is $100 for the first offense, but then as you said, we do
It's actually the third
actually,
offense.
or the third offense, excuse me, I was going to say it's the first offense, but really the third offense because we've now codified if council passes this ordinance,
A
the
work product.
requirement that code enforcement has to have a conversation. So I did just want to thank Mr. Perkinowski though, because we council in Ewing Township addressed this issue a number of months ago. And then based on feedback, both from the public and code enforcement who said, we're not going, if you have the flu and you're able to get your trash can out and you can't get it back up, code enforcement was never writing these violations. But to really, make sure the public understands that this is not, we're not going after anybody purposefully. This is for the folks who leave their trash cans out on, say, a Tuesday and Saturday, their trash cans are still at the curb. So in hearing from the public,
Yep.
council did take it upon yourselves, and I applaud you to not only lower the fines, but actually codify that there's a requirement now that there be conversations before any, violation is written. So I just did want to point out that the 250 was specifically not for trash cans.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate that. All right, May Carter.
Thank you for allowing me to address you. Greetings to all my friends or non-friends, new friends.
Ms. Carter, just your address, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry,
Your address,
my address.
where you live.
I live in Beechwood Avenue, 313 Beechwood
Awesome.
Avenue.
That's for the recording, so we know.
I'm having a hard time hearing everything you say.
Okay.
Can you
we-
hear anything I say?
I can hear you carefully and completely. Go ahead.
Two issues. Number one, trees. I noticed you're still using trees. In front of the high school, there's still space for trees.
Okay.
And I look for announcements in the paper. The other thing I want to bring up, a number of my friends and people have talked about incidents. Rest considered, talked about, and if there's any information that people in the general public insurance or what they can do or something.
So,
Deep sigh.
yeah, no. I'm gonna knock wood. We have, to my knowledge, not had any ice situations in Ewing itself. Obviously, we have not had any ice situations in Ewing itself. Obviously, we are aware that ice has been in our county, and our police are well trained on how to interact with ice and how to not interact with ice appropriately. Certainly, if there is an issue, we would ask the public to reach out to the township. But we have been relatively, and I do want to knock some wood, lucky that that has not happened here in terms of raids. It's always a balance in terms of how to appropriately act, and I believe our officers are trained in terms of ensuring that they are following the rule of the law and also ensuring the safety of the residents in our community. I know our school district has gone through a process of also what to do in the event of an issue and how to process accordingly. I know the college has gone through a similar process. I know that some of our houses of worship have also had those conversations, and those are important conversations to have. I know that even in social service agencies that reside in the town, they are aware of what to do in the event that ICE arrives, God forbid, on their property. And so it's important to ensure that people know what the rules of engagement should be and are, both as it relates to an administrative action versus a judicial warrant. And I know, at least as it relates to our police force and the folks in this township who work for the township, there is an awareness and they will act appropriately. I can certainly take that back to the administration, but you want to be, I would prefer to defer to maybe our state actors to navigate that appropriately, right? So,
It's hard to be calming if we don't know.
yeah, no, and I appreciate that, but I think the most important thing we can do is ensure that we're communicating. If there is an issue and we see something going on, please report it to the township as quickly as possible. And we need to ensure that if you're in a place like a school building, that the staff is well trained on what's appropriate and not appropriate. Similarly, in a township building, what's appropriate or not appropriate. And as it relates to other structures in and around the township, what's appropriate and not appropriate. And, I can certainly talk with the administration about getting additional resources out, but I would defer to really ensuring that whatever we put out is well vetted by, say, our Attorney General to ensure that we are following the proper structure of the law. So, the good part is there's lots of different resources out there and we can use them to inform what and how we communicate with the public.
Jen, she has to speak into the mic because people that are online
They can't hear.
can't hear you.
I'm sorry. So if there are people around who, if they see something, will tell somebody
Mhm.
who, police,
So they could always report it to the township. I would say you could always report it to the police department that you've seen activity in the township. You could always report that to either the 911 or even the non-911 number. That would be an appropriate response.
so if I see like ICE people with their cars and so on go into a large area, a church, a shopping center, something, I can call somebody? What?
So what I would say is you can certainly call the police department and the township administration building and make them aware of it and then leave it to them to act appropriately. I would not recommend you get involved in the middle of the issue.
I don't want to be involved. I just want to be proactive.
Sure, sure. So the best thing you can do is report it, that there is activity going on at such and such a location. Not a perfect answer, but we're also working through these. Other members of the public wish to speak.
Have a brief question.
Sir, your name and address, please.
Oh, Derek Linebarger, 196 Bull Run Road. First of all, I'd like, after I finish here, a very brief 1-minute explanation of what the garbage law, because some of us weren't involved in this. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay. Secondly, can't imagine why anybody would want to close the car dealerships on Olden Avenue when we've lost a number of businesses. And I assume they pay a fairly substantial amount in property taxes. Okay. I mean, I don't know what the purpose of it. It seems like a perfectly normal place to put a car dealership to me. It's not residential. And finally, I hope we don't get involved in obstructing federal officers enforcing federal law. That's not our business. If they're attacked, it's our business to stop them locally. I don't want to see Ewing become Portland. Thank you.
I didn't sign in.
Okay, just your name and address.
Deborah Millioresses, 10 Flower Hill Terrace in Pennington. So just to recap for anyone that's here, the reason why I'm here from Pennington Hopewell is to talk about the TCNJ possible build through American Properties. I just went to Hopewell's meeting last week and Mayor Manning suggested that I send out an email with a list of email addresses so that that township can keep them in the loop as to what the process is and what is going on. And in return, I did send each of you also an email that you've been copied on, so you can also keep us abreast from the Ewing perspective. So I hope that we can do this, we can honor that. I think it's important, and our ask is that we are kept in close proximity to any potential build, and that we also become involved in the process. We ultimately would like to see this property remain as R100s. If ELSA is at full capacity, then they will need to put in their own self-sustaining septic system for their refuge. One of the builds could be potentially a 200-bed assisted living care facility. If they are not permitted to tie into ELSA, all of the pharmaceuticals from that facility will enter the water table. We all have wells and septic water. And also up and down Bull Run Road on the Ewing side, most residences rely on wells. Not everyone wants to tie into Trenton Water, probably for good reason, I'm guessing. I don't have Trenton Water. one of the other things that I brought up at the Hopewell meeting was that on Bull Run Road, the SIPEC Center is there, and yet our speed limit is 40 miles an hour. And Ewing has done a fantastic job with paving the road. So now we're looking at 60 or 70 miles an hour. So I'm requesting also from Ewing, can we get some police just to bring out the radar and make some money? Because it's an issue and there's a lot of traffic.
I'll defer that to the administration, but I know our administrator always takes it back to the chief and they will attempt to do enforcement where they can.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, 30 would be great. Also, one of the residences on the Ewing side, 14 Brophy Drive, just wanted to express about the traffic and environmental impact that the 94 acres for the potential build for TCNJ with American Properties would dramatically change the area, which we have expressed. But on her behalf, I would like to express that. Right now, their property has a clear view of the forest, and it's the only access that they have to open space. They're concerned that Hopewell Township's decision to designate that property will more adversely affect Ewing Township residents rather than Hopewell residents. And that Hopewell continues to have an elitist attitude that it doesn't remain or become their backyard issue, which is why I'm on the last road in Pennington and I'm with you guys, my family, because we're separated by 95. And I also wanted to ask, how concerned is Ewing about the overdevelopment of our bordering neighborhoods? Thank you.
I will just say briefly, we have long pursued every opportunity to talk with our adjoining township, both as it relates to the ELSA implications as well as the traffic implications, and we'll continue to do so. We share a border, and so we need to work together. And so my hope is that we end up with a better solution than maybe what is in their co-op plan as articulated, but maybe improved by discussion and what is possible versus what is not possible. And I will leave it at that. But I will just say from the township's perspective, we have long up to and including litigation as it related to the ELSA hookup. And we'll continue to do what we need to ensure that we have sufficient capacity from a sewer perspective for our residents and are addressing any traffic concerns that occur in the region up to and including working with DOT to hopefully see some relief at the Federal City and Bull Run interchange. It was through the leadership of the administration, really kind of pushing the discussion with both Hopewell and with Lawrence, where we ended up with hopefully a slightly better solution that's still in process and hopefully sooner than later resolved.
Right.
So
And will Hopewell contribute to that?
my
process?
understanding is they are and have signed on to at least the transportation aspect of our proffer was to really develop a roundabout at that intersection with some attendant lights potentially in the Lawrence area so that we can ensure that people are able to properly kind of wander through or move through that corridor in a safe way.
Right. And for me, the pharmaceuticals.
As it relates to water and sewer, we will continue to ensure that any hookups are done with an eye toward understanding what our capacity needs are for our township and our township residents who have supported and continue to pay bills to ELSA through the township. Thank you. Sure. I'll go left, right. Go ahead. Come on.
Good evening. Nicole Johnson Malone, pastor of St. Paul, Amy Zion Church on Lower Ferry, and also I live in the Ewing Town Center. So, couple of things, some things I attended to say maybe something about and some things I didn't. One, I would like to give this to Councilwoman Stewart because she was one of our honorees for Women's History Month. And I've been meaning to bring it over to you, so.
Thank you. That's lovely.
Thing. Also, I want to open up our building for any use that the township may have. In August, we had the Board of Public Utilities host Utility Day at our church, and they were able to help over 125 families get assistance with paying their utility bills. We've had assembly persons call us. We have a really great space. And some of you have been to our church for prayer, for community days and things like that. So, you know, folks from the county have been reaching out to want to host things, but I just want to let the township know that, you know, if y'all want to host something, we have a good space and we would love to partner with you. And then the other thing I wanted to address, because I was hoping that it was kind of answered when this wonderful woman got up to ask about ICE. And I understand your hesitancy in answering directly because there are a lot of directions, I guess, that come from the state on this issue. But, you know, as a wife of an immigrant who is here legally, has his, you know, all his paperwork and all those things, I still have a concern, right? Because people are being taken who are citizens. And so I live with that, you know, real possibility every day. So I do want to know that if ICE shows up at my door, that I can call the police, you know? And so that's kind of what, like, I was like waiting. I'm like, okay, so can I call the police? Because I want to make sure that and I have no choice. I am going to get in the middle of it. I mean, you know, it's
I
just,
just want people to be safe.
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try my you know, very best if something like that happened. But you know, it's a reality that we do want some type of direction on it because it is very scary. It's a reality for our family. So and the police last month my mother actually she passed out at coming to our home in Union Town Center, and the police we called 911. I mean, they were bam there like so quick, you know. And so I do appreciate that and how quickly the police and ambulance showed up and everything. And so you know, I'm like, I have no hesitancy in calling the police when I need them, you know, but I want to know in that situation that I can do that if I need to, because we want to be protected. So
And always call either the emergency or the non-emergency number. I am careful about, you know, there's going to be a different response in terms of how law enforcement will respond once they get to the scene based on whether there is a warrant or there isn't a warrant, or judicial warrant, let me be precise. And it would be inappropriate for me to kind of pontificate on that because that's better put to our chief and to the department who go through training, as do school professionals and hospital professionals, which I didn't even think to say, but hospital professionals and houses of worship where they've figured out, you know, that they're defining spaces as either public or not public. And so those distinctions are going to be important as a situation unfolds. Again, we have been very lucky that we have not had an issue, and it's sort of like Beetlejuice. I don't want to say it 3 times because then it could come to pass. But, you know, certainly our law enforcement officers are always there to help. The township is always there to help. How they're going to address situations that occur on the scene will differ depending on the paperwork that ICE potentially has with them. And that's a reality. But none of our citizens should be put in fear. And I want to ensure that we have as safe a community as possible. I also have to be cognizant of what law enforcement can and can't do. And so there's always that balance.
no,
But
I appreciate the answer. I mean, and listen, at this point, I have my husband's social security card, passport, everything on my phone because
just in case.
just in case. Yeah. So, but thank you.
I just have one thing.
Sure.
I just wanted to add one personal experience that might be relevant for you. I think
Mike,
turned it off. Not on, sorry. Is, you know, in my day job, I work in a social service environment. And so I had the occasion to reach out to our police chief
I did.
because actually sometimes the confusion is you don't know who it is. And so they were able to help verify through their channels because they can verify what law enforcement agency someone is from and whether they're legit and all that kind of stuff. And so I have done this. I have reached out to our law enforcement folks who thankfully it was not, and they actually
it?
helped me resolve that it, was, everyone is so activated by this because there is such legitimate fears. So I have done it myself and they have been very helpful in that situation. So for what it's worth.
Thank you.
Good evening. Holly Ritter, President of Ewing United Soccer Association. My Ewing address or the EUSA address? 50 Misty Moore Lane
Right.
in Ewing. On behalf of the thousands of Ewing youth soccer players that have grown up in West End Soccer Association, Ewing Girls Soccer Association, and Ewing United Soccer Association, throughout his 50-plus years of dedication, time, knowledge, and philanthropy, we are here tonight proposing the soccer fields currently located near the Ewing Township Municipal Building and Ewing Police Department be named the Bruce N. Angebrandt Soccer Complex, home of West End and EUSA. The lessons learned both on and off the field just by knowing Bruce, or sometimes not knowing his name but hearing him coach from the sidelines regardless, have contributed to the growth and development of people, not just soccer players. As fellow coaches, we all know the importance of these life skills incorporated into sports practices, games, tournaments. The families created on the fields, courts, pitches, and parks that carry into our schools, our neighborhoods, our homes, and stick with us for life. There's something really cool about this town where most of us have grown up, and now we watch our children or grandchildren play sports, go to school, and grow up with the children of our teammates and classmates. Bruce was an integral part of this town, soccer specifically, baseball, the rec department for 30 years. And each of our individual legacies. For all of that and to honor the person that he was, steady, reliable, and dedicated season after season, year after year, we ask for your support to give back to the coach, man, and mentor that spent his life positively influencing the lives of so many others simply for the love of the game. I don't know proper logistics, protocol for going about something like this. I just know what Bruce was to us, to those of us that were born and raised here, grew up in Ewing rec sports. I was a member of the Patriotic Committee back in time. For Ewing people, Bruce was a Ewing person. And we, as Ewing United and the legacy of West End and Ewing girls, really want to make sure that his legacy carries on.
We appreciate you coming in, and I know, the rec board also had some conversations. I know we have honored other folks as well. And so, certainly take it back to the administration and have a conversation. I know Kevin and I were both there the other night, and he's been part of viewing sports all of my life. So it's sort of hard to hear that he's gone and to know that he's gone. But I'm not sure what the best pathway is going to be, but certainly we'll take it back. And I know there's a willingness, I think, of this council, a willingness on the part of the administration to do something. We'll just have to figure out what that something is. And thank you for coming forth with a specific idea.
Sure. I just want to add that the Ewing United will assist in any way that we can financially or developing ideas or location if signs or plaques or things of that nature are agreed upon. We'd be honored.
Awesome. We'll keep you in the loop. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Please send me
I was
that,
gonna say,
what you just read to me. I'll give you my email address when we're done here.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly.
This side of the room. Bird.
Good evening, Jim Bird, Hopewell Township. I live in Hopewell Township, but I also lived in Ewing. And right now I'm wearing a couple different hats. First hat, I take off. My question is, whatever happened to the chicken ordinance?
So it
I know I
passed.
was here, I spoke about it, just curious.
Yeah, no,
Anything
it
ever?
passed, it's moving forward.
Very good.
And
Glad to
people
hear it.
can legitimately have
Thank you.
chickens in the township now.
Very good, thank you. Now we come to Bull Run Road. And on the north side is Hopewell Township, on the south side is Ewing Township. You really don't have a lot to say about this, which is a shame. However, you also are very much involved with Ewing Lawrence Sewer Authority. And if you go to a Ewing Lawrence Sewer Authority meeting, you will hear that the attorney will say, the judge said we have to do this. Well, it's time that we challenge what that judge has to say. And I'm looking at the different aspects of court cases that might coincide with that to make sure that you keep Ewing and Lawrence over there and keep Hopewell Township over there, not touching one another. With that, we have no problem as far as Bull Run Road goes, not because of what happened at the corner of I-295 and Federal City Road. That's a thing of the past, but we don't need the rest of that area developed again. So with that in mind, you know, one of the things that's been brought up is that in regards to a developer having to put in their own sewer system. And I think that's a very important factor because all of a sudden, when you start looking at the dollars and cents of that versus hooking up to Ewing Lawrence Sewer Authority, it's day and night. And all of a sudden, it starts to spread away and they're gone. So please talk to the people who are not only in Ewing, but also in Lawrence that make it a point not to go through with this. You know, they're all factors involved. And the other situation in Hopewell Township is the planning board, as well as the zoning board. And those two aspects are very important when you come down to a situation with a development. And we will turn till we're blue in the face, but it goes over the head. And the reason being is that there's ordinances or actual laws in New Jersey that need to be modified positively for affordable housing. And with the affordable housing, with the builder's remedy, which is 20% affordable housing, but 80% market value, just think about your property tax, your property tax costs, because when you look at a pie chart, you'll see somewhere around 57% or more of your taxes is going to public school systems. And people don't think about that. So please keep that in mind. Please stress, of course, to your people, but also volley it over to the people in Hopewell Township and try to stimulate them to realize the situation that's taking place on Bull Run Road. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? You have no items for closed session? Oh, my apologies. I was asked to give some specifics on the trash ordinance. So let's just go through that very quickly.
We see her. I see her, Ron.
And I
see
believe we
her.
have, I promise, I'll get to you. All right, so as our council indicated, there are two different types of offenses or violations outlined underneath the actual modification. The first has to do with generalized solid waste, which is what Mr. Prickanowski referenced. And that would be things like inappropriate things dumped, if you will. That has a first offense of 250, a second offense of 500, and each subsequent at 750. But that's existing ordinance itself. In comparison, we have a separate section that outlines for trash cans. The only thing we were modifying in this particular ordinance was the violation schema. We passed the ordinance several weeks ago that established the standards in terms of when you have to put your can out, which was existing ordinance, and when you need to collect your trash can, which is basically, my recollection is, was it?
The next.
Yeah,
Nope,
no,
nope.
no, the next day
day.
after. So my trash day, I'll use me. My trash day is on Monday. I would have until 6 PM on Tuesday to pick up that can. Pretty sufficient amount of time. And we did that because some people may work second shift. The trash may not be picked up at the same time every day. We wanted to ensure that there's some flexibility, but we didn't want the trash can to be out there forever. And so to try to reflect that, we gave a significant amount of time. As we articulated, you will get two warnings before we actually enforce. And so in essence, 2 warnings if you bypass the day after your trash collection, 7 PM, right? So 7 PM on the second day, you've done it twice. It wouldn't be until the 3rd violation that you would see an actual offense. And the first offense is $100, which would be the 3rd offense. The 3rd offense is $100. The 4th offense would be 250, and each subsequent would be 500. And the idea is, look, if there's a continual problem here, there's an issue and we may need to educate. And sometimes, sadly, there are instances where we have to educate by way of actually enforcement. But by this point, if you're at each subsequent offense, you'll have violated this particular ordinance 5 times. 5 times. Very candidly, we're also allowing significant amount of times between offenses. So if, in fact, there was 18 months between your 3rd offense and the next time, we go back to the beginning. So if you have an issue, health-wise, theoretically, you had an offense, you had another offense, you had a 3rd offense, you got an offense, but then there's a long time, 18 months, we start again. It doesn't continue in that stream. Again, the benefit of ordinances is that we have an opportunity to hopefully shape what's happening in our community. And if we have problems with the ordinance, I'm sure everyone will come out and tell us. They often do. In fact, part of how we changed, as I talked about, how long we had until we actually decided to even determine there was a violation was through conversations up here and with all of you about people who may work second shift, or the fact that there may be circumstances that require a need to go beyond simply 6 o'clock on the day after your trash is, or the 6 o'clock on the day your trash is collected. So that's part of the process. But at this point, I think it's a good starting place. I do think we do have an issue with this from time to time in the town. And we need to ensure that if we have a continuing problem with a particular resident, that our code enforcement officers have the ability to have a little bit of teeth if they need to. It is a quality of life issue. And so my hope is that this is the proper balance. But I think we put in some decent guardrails in the process and at the same time articulated a plan that meets the different types of people's schedules. So I think that's it in a nutshell. I ran through that relatively quickly. I'm happy to talk after our agenda session with anybody who has any other subsequent questions, okay?
You have to do it.
Come on, you gotta go with the phone because of the recording.
And I do want to I double checked. It's 6 AM, not 6 PM.
6 p.m.
6 AM.
Eric Linebarger, 196 Will Run Road. What time are you supposed to put them out? That's,
So that was in our existing ordinance. You have 6 PM the night before you can put your trash out. Yep. And I know we had somebody at the back. Come on up. Okay.
14 Stewart Avenue. I came home today, I was appalled. PSC&G had their linemen cut my trees. After I specifically had a meeting with the guy saying, do not cut my trees until I meet the forester. And they agreed with that, and I come home, my trees are cut, never met the forester. Now my trees are hacked, butchered, not professionally done, even though they said they're professionally done. I got a degree in plant science. I worked in a nursery for 43 years. So I kind of know plants. And it has to stop. They're, I know it's PSCNG's thing, not the township, but the township must be able to control something. I don't know. But it's awful what they're doing.
I know they do prune for purposes of the power lines.
Yes, but
If there's an issue, we can certainly, I can put you in touch with somebody who works for their government affairs section. That is something. So why don't you, if you can stay after the agenda session, I'm happy to get your contact information. We'll try to connect you with somebody from BSE.
and I have one other question.
Sure.
This is regards to the trash. We live in a neighborhood that has a lot of college rentals.
Hmm.
Now, who do you find for that? The
Ah.
homeowner or the college students?
So it's the landlord
Okay,
because they're the property owner.
okay.
They may have something in their own contract that would make the individual resident responsible, but it's the property owner who would be responsible.
Thank you. I'm honored to be married to this person.
And feel free to.
Turn it down.
Turn to, hi, Karen Kissel, Vows, 14 Stewart Avenue. Same thing, appalled, shocked, come home. Native, mature trees, pin oak, ready maple, our neighbor's ready maple, cut in half, just sliced right down the middle. So now half the tree leads towards our house. All the limbs on the street side taken down. Now we have no balance. Our poor trees have no balance. I mean, and the cuts aren't even professionally, they're irregular cuts, blunt. And so I had gotten a phone call from my husband. I got home as soon as I could to see, what had happened. Trucks were pulling away. I'm curious. I followed to see where they were going, the Pennsylvania plates. Followed them to the Element Hotel here. There must be at least 20 of their trucks in the parking lot at the Element Hotel. All of their crew members were joined together in a group in the parking lot at the hotel. I'm concerned for the rest of the trees of our township. Where are they going tomorrow? There was at least 6 trucks in our neighborhood along by the college campus, the lakeside, that small little gazebo side, and the Route 31. All went to the Element Hotel. Where are they going tomorrow? Whose trees? They're gonna just strip our township of our trees, and I know we value our trees. So I just feel like what they did was excessive. We were supposed to meet with the forester to have, a discussion on what limbs they could remove, hopefully, so that we wouldn't have the trees top heavy. They took a lot of the lower limbs. There's no balance now for the trees. So I'm concerned, came tonight, we both came, so that maybe you can find out what their agenda is for tomorrow and throughout the next couple of days. Are they going to hit all of our trees like they did ours?
We can certainly reach out to PSC&G. The good part is, as I indicated, they do have government affairs folks that, we can reach out to. What I would ask is, again, after the agenda session, I'm going to get your contact information. I'm happy to connect folks. I don't know without asking the question, but I appreciate you coming in and raising the issue. And part of it is, we'll ask. We'll ask.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Any other member of the public wish to speak? We have no items for closed session. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Township regular meeting.
Please rise for the invocation. Almighty God, we ask that you bless us and help us seek your wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength. Be with us in our deliberations and help us to be wise in the decisions we make for the good of all those who have placed their trust and confidence in our leadership. Give us insight to lead with integrity, that our decisions may reflect what is right and good, and grant us humility to always seek your will in all that we do and say. Amen. Flags.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meeting Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given in a notice which was transmitted to the Times of Trenton and the Trentonian on the 3rd of January, 2025, filed with the clerk of the Township of Ewing and posted in the Ewing Township Municipal Complex. The public, upon recognition of the presiding officer, will have an opportunity to address the council during the statements and comments from members of the public segment of the meeting. Sign-in sheet has been provided at the front of the room. When called upon, please come to the microphone and clearly state your name and address. You will be given 5 minutes of time. Statements and comments should be directed to the council president. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Baxter?
Present.
Miss Stewart?
Here.
Miss Waller?
Here.
President Keys Maloney?
Here.
For the record, Councilman Schroth has an excused absence this evening. Item F this evening is statements and comments from members of the public for items not on the agenda.
Is there any member of the public that would wish to speak as part of the regular meeting?
Moving on to bills list number 1 is a resolution authorizing the chief financial officer to pay bills in the amount of $976,137.05 and to pay supplemental bills per resolution 25R-12 in the amount of $831,422.33.
Questions from members of council on the bills list? Questions or comments from members of the public on the bills list? Can I get a motion on the bills?
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Waller? Yes. Mr. Baxter?
Yes.
President Keys Maloney?
Yes.
All items listed under item H consent agenda are considered routine by the Township Council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. There will be one motion for all items listed. Madam President and members of council, I present to you the consent agenda for approval.
Any questions or comments from members of the council on the consent agenda? Any questions or comments from members of the public on the consent agenda? Can I get a motion on the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Ms. Waller?
Yes.
Mr. Baxter?
Yes.
Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
President Keys Maloney?
Yes.
Item I this evening, ordinances for first reading and introduction. Number 1 is an ordinance amending the revised general ordinances of the Township of Ewing in the County of Mercer to amend Chapter 161 dwellings unfit, requiring the registration and maintenance of certain real property for which an action to foreclosure has been filed.
We had a good discussion with Hera Property Registry, as well as with each other related to this particular ordinance during the agenda session. Any questions from members of council on the ordinance? Questions or comments from members of the public on the ordinance? Can I get a motion to introduce the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Baxter?
Yes.
Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
Ms. Waller?
Yes.
President Keys Maloney?
Yes.
Ordinances for second reading, public hearing, and final adoption. Number 1 is an ordinance amending the revised general ordinances of the Township of Ewing and the County of Mercer to amend Chapter 319, Solid Waste, Section 14, Violations and Penalties, to amend the penalties for violating Section 319-11 regarding the removal of trash bins from the public streets.
Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Would any member of the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Baxter?
Yes.
Ms. Waller?
Yes.
Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
President Keys Maloney?
Yes.
Number 2 is an ordinance amending the revised general ordinances of the Township of Ewing, the County of Mercer, to amend Chapter 224 littering, Section 1 prohibited act to prohibit the release of balloons in the township.
Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
One more eye in the back. Future council member.
Timing.
Any questions or comments from members of the public beyond that?
Beyond that.
Okay. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Ms. Waller?
Yes.
Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Baxter,
Yes.
President Keys Maloney.
Yes.
Item K this evening, new business number 1 is a resolution amending resolution number 25R-12, authorizing a license to the United States Environmental Protection Agency to access an additional township-owned site for purposes of soil sampling.
Any questions from members of council? Any questions from members of the public? Can I get a motion on the resolution?
So move.
Second,
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Ms. Waller.
yes.
Mr. Baxter.
Yes.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
President Keys Maloney.
Yes.
Number 2 is a resolution authorizing a memorial donation program allowing the installation of memorial park benches and trees.
Any questions or comments from members of council? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Can I get a motion on the resolution?
Move the resolution.
Second,
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Ms. Waller.
yes.
Mr. Baxter.
Yes.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
President Keys Maloney.
Yes.
Number 3 is a resolution authorizing the donation, recycling, or disposal of property of nominal value.
Any questions or comments from members of council? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Can I get a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Baxter.
Yes.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
Ms. Waller.
Yes.
President Keys Maloney.
Yes.
Number 4 is a resolution authorizing the purchase, of 3 2025 Ford Utility Interceptor police vehicles from Winter Ford, New Jersey, contract number 20-FLEET-01189.
Madam Clerk, could we also do 5 with it together?
Sure can.
There-
Number 5 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3 upfit packages for the 2025 Ford Utility Interceptor police vehicles purchased from Winter Ford, New Jersey, contract number NJ-20-Fleet-01189.
Any questions or comments from members of council? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Can I get a motion on the resolutions in block?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
Ms. Waller.
Yes.
Mr. Baxter.
Abstain.
President Keys Maloney.
Yes.
Number 6 is a resolution authorizing the tax collector to convert property maintenance charges to a municipal lien on various properties within the township of Ewing in the county of Mercer, state of New Jersey.
Questions or comments from members of council on this resolution? Questions or comments from members of the public on this resolution? Can I get a motion on the resolution?
Resolution.
Second,
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Ms. Waller.
yes.
Mr. Baxter.
Yes.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
President Keys Maloney.
Yes.
Number 7 is a resolution rejecting all bids received in response to the request for bids for the provision of secondary on-call condemned structure demolition services.
Any questions or comments from members of council? Questions or comments from members of the public? Can I get a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Baxter.
Yes.
Ms. Waller.
Yes.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
President Keys Maloney.
Yes.
Number 8 is a resolution requesting approval of items of revenue and appropriation NJS 40A:4-87.
Any questions or comments from members of council? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Can I get a motion on the resolution?
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
Mr. Baxter.
Yes.
Ms. Waller.
Yes.
President Keys Maloney.
Yes.
Number 9 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2025 Ford F-250 regular cab 4x4 truck in the amount of $67,213.28 for the purpose and use for the Public Works Department through Seoka Ford of Flemington through state contract T2100/24-Fleet-103122.
Any questions or comments from members of council? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Can I get a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
Ms. Waller.
Yes.
Mr. Baxter.
Abstain.
President Keys Maloney.
Yes. And with that, can we get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.